So Guap and some key players who are in Trinidad and Tobago in the cryptocurrency space said, hell no. For lack of a better word, hell no, because this is a tool. It is as new as the internet. It needs to be regulated, as per my last conversation with you, pro regulations to keep people safe, but a blanket ban is not going to achieve that. And so we led the charge in getting in the same rooms as the ones who would pass this bill, either in its original form or something that could be better, in our opinion.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ask a Bitcoiner 21 Questions. I'm your host, Saida Gomez. So I wasn't planning on recording until the new year, but something extraordinary is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. As many of you know, the Virtual Assets and Virtual Assets Service Providers Bill was introduced in September of this year, 2025. The bill actually passed the House in last Friday, so November 21st of this year. And next steps, which may not be next steps anymore because Alexandra dropped a bomb before we hit record, is Senate review, then presidential assent. Here to let us know what's really going on and how this affects us, and also correct me because I've read apparently a lot of things that are incorrect, is Alexandra Lutchman, Chief Operating Officer of Guap and also Head of Marketing. Alexandra, how are you today?
I am so good. I am really happy to be here to be chatting with Bitcoiners again, including yourself,
Thank you.
and talk about progress that was made, even though it's mass confusion, but it's fine because if we're gonna get the word out there to all my fellow Bitcoiners, if it's not me, who's it gonna be? So I'm good. I'm good.
So I don't even know where to start with this. Firstly, why are things moving so quickly? Because I feel like, or is it normal for a bill to pass through in like under 2 months?
Good question. So it's not normal for bills to pass through in under 2 months, but Trinidad is on a deadline, and that deadline is to avoid being on the gray list of the Financial Action Task Force, which they need to be compliant by March 2026. So there is a big effort to make sure that all of the regulations that are in place and will start working are done before the new year. And so that means that, like, let's get these out. This bill was actually written 2 years ago, but it was tabled for different priorities and whatever it may be. And it really only entered debate, like you said, 6 weeks ago in September. That's when I first heard about it. And in that 6 weeks, okay, so update for you is that the bill has been passed. And the headline is the Virtual Asset and Virtual Asset Service Provider Bill has been passed by the House of Representatives, and it also was debated in the Senate, and it's passed there as well. The bill in its original form had a 2-year blanket ban, so December 2027, no virtual asset provider, so including Guap, would be able to operate. Anybody owning or selling, distributing cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin or stablecoins, was subject to a $5 million Trinidad and Tobago dollar fine and jail time.
Hold on, you said owning and selling.
So individuals, it was a blanket ban. So of course they can't prove owning.
Yeah.
But if you own with intent to sell, I'm sure there's a few clauses in there. So Guap and some key players who are in Trinidad and Tobago in the cryptocurrency space said, hell no.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word, hell no, because this is a tool. It is
Yeah.
as new as the internet. It needs to be regulated, as per my last conversation with you, pro regulations to keep people safe, but a blanket ban is not going to achieve that. And so we led the charge in getting in the same rooms as the ones who wrote, or were actually, let's rephrase that. We led the charge for the ones who would pass this bill, either in its original form or something that could be better, in our opinion. And the current majority government was very welcome to hear what we had to say. They took our feedback into account. We came with understanding their deadline, understanding what limitations they had, and proposed a few things that would work well for FATF for themselves and for people who use crypto today. So the bill has over 200 amendments.
Yeah, I saw that presented at the last minute before the debate.
Presented at the last minute, and the opposition was not happy.
I saw that.
But it was an interesting reason why they weren't happy. The arguments, if you listen to the debate, was against a blanket ban. So this is what the opposition is saying. And they said that this ban is not going to protect the citizens, and, this is not freedom. And this is the opposition. Of course, the opposition is always supposed to oppose and make sure that it's the
Hence
best
the name opposition.
version of the bill. But because this amended bill was introduced and they didn't have all of the time to read it, a lot of the things that they were saying was like, we could easily have been like, yeah, so it's solved in the amended one. Mm-hmm. But because of the last minute adding a proposal for it, most of the argument was about why is it last minute? It's not fair that there's 200 amendments. We want to review it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to say no until we review. And that's the opposition. But it is a majority government in Trinidad. So the majority government passed it with those 200 amendments, which were championed by the Virtual Asset Working Group, which is many players in Trinidad who want to see technology and innovation thrive, including Guap.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it passed 25-11,
Yes.
and I was actually on the TT Parliament YouTube channel watching the debate, and I don't want to get his name wrong, so I'm just going to read it. It's the Attorney General, the Honorable John Jeremy, speaking in the House of Representatives. He said that basically the main driver is compliance with FATF, so the Financial Action Task Force.
A mouthful, yeah.
Yeah, FATF. And and basically he said, they're the ones who are driving the show.
Yes.
So obviously I looked through some of the YouTube comments and stuff. I saw some people saying that, basically, Trinidad is sort of bending the knee to the US. You mentioned the gray list, you mentioned that risk. Can you, for me, who is totally biased, and I don't live in Trinidad, so, I'm all about freedom. I'm a Bitcoiner, I bleed orange. Can you outline for me the risk that Trinidad and Tobago faces if they're not in compliance with FATF?
Right. So FATF is governs much more than just cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a very small part of it. So just to set a perspective here, trading, how businesses are structured, import, export, crypto, and also has influence on, whether directly or indirectly, on the value of the dollar. And so being compliant with FATF means that Trinidad can continue to operate and work with other FATF compliant, so other FATF compliant countries, in a way that is fair and regulated. So it's almost like they get a check mark that says their governance is correct. They are not financing terrorists. They are doing proper KYC, and the businesses that they have are not so complex, and they're not allowing these businesses to get so complex that you can do trafficking, drug trafficking, for example, or human trafficking. So FATF, holds governments responsible to making sure that the laws and regulations in place protect the citizens and protect other countries while they're on the international markets. So there is the good list, there is a gray list, and there's the black list. And if you're on the black list, essentially you're written off, you're struck off, you're not really going to be dealing with anybody in international markets, and there's going to be advisories put up against that country. The gray list says almost there, or maybe not quite there, but beware, make sure that you're doing that. And Trinidad was, I can't remember the day, so maybe we can research that, but Trinidad was on the gray list for quite some time. One of the achieving moments for the government in the last 10 years was getting off the gray list. So not only are they protective of this achievement, they also need to stay very close to the ground in terms of introducing regulations to make sure that things are safe for their citizens and people who are transacting with them. Yes. So that's FATF. Crypto is a new, so what FATF has said for cryptocurrency is here are the standards, or here's what our recommendations are to start regulating. And the easiest way to get that check mark is to put that blanket ban. So we've seen a few countries do that.
Okay, it's like a shortcut. Yeah.
Yes. So we don't know any, so it's almost like, and this is very similar, we don't really know anything about crypto. We want to do our research. We want to take our time. We want to make sure that we regulate everything. For now, we're going to have to blanket ban it. And that was the idea going into it. I think some communication came out from the government to players in Trinidad and Tobago at the time saying, hey, we're doing a survey. Do you use crypto? Can you help us build a bill? And I don't think there was a strong answer because I think that was 2 years ago. So Guap wasn't there. And so they were like, well, nobody's really using it. I don't think a blanket ban is going to affect the citizens that much. But a lot can change in 2 years.
Yeah.
And so when this this bill came into debate, well, Guap is existing. Other people have adopted crypto. They've used it much more than speculating. They've used it to just send money home. So now it is affecting real people and their day-to-day lives. A ban is not going to do citizens good. It's not going to protect them. And that was our main argument. Mm-hmm. And with a little bit of effort, a little bit of research, and having the right people in the room, you can get regulation that is just at least starting to protect citizens and still be compliant. So those are our two things: protect your citizens and be compliant. And hopefully they overlap. It's almost like a Venn diagram that's a circle. You really want it to be the same thing. And so the new bill, I think I can go over some highlights, but the one that I want to highlight now is that there's a regulatory sandbox. And for those who don't know what a sandbox is in this context, it is a way for operators such as Guap or other key players to continue operating with certain levels of communication, or a certain amount of communication with the regulators, and saying that we are happy to build in a manner that keeps you compliant. Here's the law that maybe other countries use, or this is what will work. We're going to abide by it, and you're going to put it into regulations, and we're going to build this together. So not only do companies still be able to operate, customers can still work, customers can still use crypto, but then finally government can regulate and protect citizens who are at risk. So,
Yeah, so there's, because I saw in one of the comments a person writing, this bill only impacts virtual assets service providers as opposed to individual citizens. And I saw on, I think it's called Tobago Updates, they listed basically the things that are banned under this bill. So it's the purchase, sale, exchange, or transfer of cryptocurrencies until December 2027. So as a layperson, when I see, transfer, I think to myself, like a peer-to-peer transaction would then be banned under this bill.
So in the original bill, if you were to do a peer-to-peer transaction in a parking lot and that person acted dishonestly,
yeah,
and you went to the cops or the police would be like, I'm so sorry, there's nothing we can do. There's no law for us to protect you on this. In fact, you had an intent to sell, buy, or transfer, so you're doing something that is illegal. That is, yes, that's the old bill. And the 2027 was also a key date. So now there is a freeze. There's still a freeze. It's until 2026. So we've cut that down by 50% by a year.
Yeah.
But there's no blanket shutdown of existing operators. So although there's a freeze, that's going to be for new operators or anybody who wants to come in and operate outside of the sandbox. They're not going to be able to. So we're still going to have to qualify. Anybody's still going to have to qualify for the sandbox and work closely with the government. So it is another operational level to it, but it is something that, with a country that had no regulations and is looking to have regulations, it's part of it.
So for Guap customers, what can they expect in terms of like new services or the new way, they'll have to operate, or you'll operate with them?
Business as usual. So
yeah.
kind of what's fantastic about this is that it's business as usual as of right now. What is really important for my Guap customers, and I talk to them all the time, is that this sandbox can be something that is on paper and that at the end of this 2-year thing, we just go back to a blanket ban, right? That's still a risk. Or we can use our voices as we have before and continue pushing the government that fair regulation is needed. It is something that cryptocurrency needs, especially in Trinidad, to avoid bad actors. And having a sandbox that is just on paper versus working with operators such as Guap, there's one that's more preferred, and it's work really closely with us. We really want to work closely with the government, so we don't want it to be superficial. That's the word I was looking for. So we don't want it to be superficial. We want it to be something that, benefits everybody across the board, a triple win.
Yeah. And in your last episode appearance, you talked about Guap operating in the US as well, because the bill hadn't passed or anything like that. And I'm imagining that other service providers would look for other jurisdictions as well to operate in. So how, in your discussions or your interactions with, I guess, government officials, how do they see sort of the threat to innovation in reaction to this bill?
The government officials that we spoke to, they care so deeply about their citizens, and they may have been in
good to hear.
May have been in deep water when it came to understanding Bitcoin, virtual assets, crypto. I don't blame them. I've been in the space for 10 plus years, and I sometimes don't get it as well. Like, what is an NFT really? So, so I don't blame them, but they did want to do right, and they did want to speak to the right people, and they didn't know how to go about it.
Yeah.
Until we said, hey, we're the right people. We're going to be a little bit of annoying. We're going to, push, and we're going to recommend. And they really were open to hearing us out and meeting us in the middle, because of course with us, and I love regulations when it protects day-to-day consumers. It's necessary, but there is such thing as over-regulating, and there's such thing as under-regulating. If any of us were to have it, would be like, people will figure it out and we'll just see what happens. I know that there's some people that like that. And then the other side is blanket ban. People don't know what they're doing, and it's the government's responsibility to protect them, and if they don't understand it, then ban it. So there's two sides to this.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to see there was this meet in the middle. Those 200 amendments didn't come from nowhere. That was us advising, and for them to put that into the bill, even if it was last minute, and go, hey, this sounded small at the beginning, but there was a loud voice, there was a petition signed, there was a podcast and news articles talking about it. So we want to make something that works well for our citizens. What's unfortunate, though, is that because the headline was, virtual asset provider bill, and the only bill publicly available is the one that does the blanket ban. And the 200 amendments, it's if you really listen to that entire debate or have AI summarize it for you, you're not going to have all the details. So I am anxiously waiting for that new bill to come out so that everybody can see what the new regulations are.
And so if I can summarize, basically, some virtual asset service providers can continue to operate so long as they are in compliance, so to speak, with what the Trinidad and Tobago government needs to do in order to meet FATF compliance.
Yeah. So maybe a little bit more clear is that current existing operators can qualify for the sandbox, and in that sandbox we build regulations together, which is fantastic. What that's going to look like in practicality, I'm not sure, right?
Yeah.
But that will work well, and that already is compliant with FATF. So FATF has these suggestions or best practices, and we can align to that, and that will be fine when it comes to cryptocurrency. There's a lot more, so a lot about how a business is structured or import-export and everything like that was debated in previous sittings, but we're okay now regarding crypto. Everybody else.
And FATF is based out of the US, right? Or
Yes.
Is it? Okay, this is going to sound very simplistic, but is it possible to do a copy paste of what's going on in the US? Because again, from what I see, from what I hear, from what I read, I think it was Eric Trump not so long ago reporting from a Bitcoin mining facility that his company had set up. The ecosystem in the US seems to be quite mature compared to other jurisdictions. And it seems as though, I mean, from ETFs to mining to energy, if you look at Texas, it just seems as though they are growing and expanding leaps and bounds.
One correction. So FATF is not based out of the US.
Okay.
I did a quick Google. So I was
Smart.
like, is it? I'm like, I'm not sure. So its headquarters is in Paris, France,
Oh
and
dear.
out of 39 countries, the US is part of it. I'm sure US has a pretty big influence based on the innovation that comes out of the US. So that's, yeah. I was making sure. I was like, I don't think so. Maybe.
Oh, that's
Um,
why in Tobago today they were citing European laws with respect to compliance and stuff. And I think they didn't say Mika, but they said, you know, in Europe right now, there's a sort of regulatory framework that companies need to comply with in order to operate. Okay, I get that.
So you said something interesting, which was a copy and paste of another country. So the original bill was actually a copy and paste from a different jurisdiction, which was the Banket Plan. That happened. Their Banket Plan happened in 2017. So from 2017 to 2019, there was a ban on crypto from this other country, and then they were able to build fair regulations. So that already happened. And then in the debate that was actually referenced to, which is like, why are we just copying and pasting other laws that may not apply to our citizens? Because where are we copying and pasting from, right? Are we like crypto friendly, not crypto friendly? What is the best
That's fair.
fit? And I think they've taken inspiration from a few of the big players. So Europe, the US, Canada was referenced, as well as smaller islands in the Caribbean, so the Bahamas and I think St. Vincent and the Grenadines, to build something that will work for the powerhouse that is Trinidad and Tobago, because they, you know, we've made money on oil and gas and
Yep.
also tourism. We're very close to South America, so we have a lot of migration coming from there. So things need to be tweaked so that it helps those citizens in the best way possible. Because, you know, of course, Canada, the US, and the UK, it's very different in terms of like the economic landscape, right? How
Yeah.
crypto was adopted, what type of scams, who is using it, where is it being used, what are the demands the citizens have on their banks, versus a smaller island that may not have much in the like, what's the word? They may not have encountered it as much, but the few that do use it a lot.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? So, yeah. So copy and paste is dangerous, but if you're taking inspiration from many, then yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't think Europe is the best example with respect to regulations. And it struck me, it stood out to me when the reporter mentioned this, because Europe has a lot of struggles right now.
Yes.
And Europe is known for a lot of regulations. The saying is the US innovates, China makes, and Europe regulates, which means you don't do anything. You just sort of
Yeah.
stall innovation and progression. And there are
Yes.
examples of, you know, companies leaving Europe, big and small, because there's simply no innovation here. So it's fascinating that, you know, that this reporter would mention that. But it's interesting because, so I'm on the FATF-gafi.org website.
Yeah.
And I obviously clicked on who we are, and it just lists the members, but it doesn't say who is at the center of this, or I haven't seen it yet.
Who is at the center of it?
Heads of
Is the question?
delegations, maybe.
Yeah.
Argentina. Yeah,
So
it's
it looks
okay.
like, let's see. I think it's quite a balanced.
Individuals from Australia, Argentina, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Canada. But I mean, I'm guessing these people aren't elected. They're just, you
They're
know,
assigned. Yeah. So there's They're assigned, it's a body made out of representatives,
Yeah.
and they meet, I think, 3 times in the year. It sounds like or no, it looks like there's a steering group that helps guide between these meetings. There is, I think the countries, essentially, it's just the countries that would have the most influence are the biggest, right? So it's US, UK. Um, I'm sure some of the other ones.
Well, FATF.
So maybe another interesting fact is that there's a Caribbean
Yeah.
FATF. So
Yeah.
it
I
goes
saw that.
FATF, and then the Caribbean as a whole, and then of course the individual players like Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica. And so they would also set out recommendations on how you can stay compliant with FATF essentially. Standards, mutual evaluations, and then the list, like the gray list and the blacklist.
And Trinidad will be the first country in the Caribbean to be, I think, audited or reviewed under these guidelines or these regulations, I think.
And I think that's the biggest reason why there is
Yeah.
this rush to get kind of everything under well regulated, because March 2026 it feels far away, but it never really is that far away when it comes to government. So they would want to cross their T's, dot their I's, to make sure that they're not back where they began, essentially.
So away from the government and the regulation stuff, I have to admit it's not my cup of tea. And it's funny because I've only started to pay attention to this stuff because of Bitcoin. With compliance, with, wanting to ensure from an a macro perspective that Trinidad and Tobago can still operate and do business with other countries, comes, I suppose, a little bit of privacy concerns, perhaps, for individuals.
Right.
What would change for them now that, there's a sandbox within the regulatory framework, but what changes for them? Is like everything going to be KYC'd now? Will their identity be linked to any on-chain transactions that they perform? Like, how does that look?
What's going to be exciting is that we get to build it from scratch. So
Yeah.
I can't tell you exactly how it's going to work, but if
Yeah.
I were able to wave a magic wand and my rules were to go through, is that we would have a layered approach. So up to a certain amount, you'd have KYC free daily. You can buy your Bitcoin, especially through Guap with Cash, which is really great, and just move about your day, whatever that looks like. It is your money, you're entitled to privacy. And of course, as the amounts go higher, you have a certain level of KYC, not just to protect yourself, but to protect other users. It is a fact of life, right? That Bitcoin, any crypto on a blockchain can be sent anywhere in the world, and there are really, really great things about it, but there's not so great things that can come out of that too. So once you hit a certain threshold, whether you be a business or an individual, some light KYC is never going to be something so bad, right? And that also gives me an opportunity to contact, right? If it's like, hey, like give me your phone number, and then you get a little bit more verification. If something goes wrong, if there's something that is, you're gonna have like like an error on the app or anything like that. Well, if it's KYC free and I don't know who tried to buy it, then I'm waiting for them to contact me.
Yeah.
In terms of being linked to transactions on the blockchain, so we do see that a little bit in Canada and in the US. I'm sure that if there is banking, so working with your specific bank account, there will be a link somewhere where this person made this much purchases and use this account and what it may be. But if you're buying Bitcoin at an ATM and you're buying cash and you're putting it on your self-custody wallet, well, you're going to be able to buy a certain amount on that day, KYC free. People don't want to overregulate and slow down innovation, but they also want to protect themselves and their citizens, and that comes a lot from education. So, and then when you're hitting those big numbers, when you're hitting 10,000 a day, when you're hitting, like over 100,000, and you're buying on behalf of a business, what are you doing that for? Is there a way that we're going to be supportive and make sure that you as a business are well protected? Or is it an individual, like a high net worth individual, and you're not being scammed? That's actually my biggest fear with my customers, is that sometimes I see just on my dashboard money go through, volume go through,
Yeah.
and I look at who the customer is, or the customer will contact me and say they had a great time and everything like that. But then I, just have a little conversation with them and it ends up being a romance scam. And I'm like, man, like if once my app is launched and I have those warnings in place and I do a little bit of KYC on them and whoever they're transacting with, they're not losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a romance scam. My husband is in X country and I send him back money all the time. So, push and pull when it comes to KYC, but talking to customers every day really does change my opinion on like what does do your research mean? What does education mean? Yeah.
That is so insightful because, again, I can only speak from my observations, my perspective, and most Bitcoiners are quite paranoid and cynical. So it's like, someone's, if they're dropping a little too many lyrics, like that's when I sort of, push back gently.
Yeah. Yeah.
But romance scams, I would never, you know,
It's one of the biggest ones out there, which is that there are people who want to connect with people as human nature is, and there are bad actors who take advantage of it.
yeah.
And go put your money or go buy Bitcoin and send it to me, and I will buy you a gift. I'll get you a plane ticket. I can't wait to see you. Then all of a sudden, the day of the flight, I can't come. I can't do this. I miss you so much. And those people are making bank, like damn, but at the same time, it's very vulnerable people. And you're like, okay, like this is what regulation is for. It's not for the skeptics. It's not for the people who are early adopters of technology like ourselves. We know how to spot a scam. We know I have the intuition when someone's telling me something. I'm like, it's raising an eyebrow. Like, let's talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But regulations, KYC, AML, anti-terrorist financing, they sound like big things. They sound like funding a terrorist. What does that mean, right? Like, I would
Yeah.
never do that. But then you have, she's maybe 70 plus years, and she's connected with somebody, and it's $1,000 here. It's $2,000 here. Hey, your machine is out of Bitcoin. When can I buy more? My husband really needs it. And I've talked to them. They're very convinced that this is their life partner. So that's what I want to work with the government to protect folks like that. Yeah, and it's all ages, right? And I'm just
Yeah.
using
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
example, like teenagers, especially when it comes to speculative investing, right? Let me buy the latest hype coin and see what happens. And of
Yeah.
course, for a little bit of people, that does really well. For other people, not so much. And where's the balance for that?
I feel like again, just speaking as an individual, you have far more insight into this than I probably ever will. But I feel as though sometimes, you have to touch the fire and have your hand burned in order to understand, not to do certain things. Like I guess it's the line between government intervention and regulation and them probably with good intentions, but then governments change and the intentions can change as well. It's
Of
the
course.
line between you telling me how I can operate and me behaving like an adult, basically. I need
Yep.
to educate myself before I move forward with,
Yep.
with so many different things.
I absolutely agree. There is nothing quite like a teacher who burns you a little bit because you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn fast, and that is absolutely okay. We've had it on the internet. We've had it with Bitcoin at the very beginning, and people are still learning those lessons all the time. I actually had this is a fun story for you, a previous person that I worked with forever ago. Great reputation of a great entrepreneur, developer, like coder. He fell for Elon Musk Bitcoin scam on Twitter. And I was like, okay,
Okay, what was the scam and
oh my
how did he
goodness.
fall
So
for it?
it's before Elon owned X. You have a fake account that looks like Elon's name, but not Elon. Send me this much Bitcoin. I'm gonna pick a winner and I'm gonna send them a whole Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, listen, some people could fall for it. It's cool, but raise eyebrows. Like, why would Elon send a whole Bitcoin to somebody? Like, I mean, if he wants to, fine. But the, I think, yeah. So overregulating, especially when it's reactionary and it only takes stereotypes into account. you and me don't look like what people think of when it comes to Bitcoiner. They
For
don't
sure.
think of us.
No, for sure.
And for the reasons that we're into it is not a story that's told very often either. And they're going to go with the majority, and it's somebody who is a good or bad actor, but is speculating, putting in the money, taking the money out, sending it here, buying pizza, but then also buying, things that aren't so great. They don't look like us, and so that's not who they keep in mind when they first hear Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And so there is, regulating for that stereotype, but then there's also thinking of all of my customers, 5,000 monthly active users who do not look like your average crypto person, using it to send money back home,
Yeah.
cash out, pay rent. Where's the regulations for them? What is going to protect them from it? And, you can't regulate in a way that just excludes them, because that doesn't make any sense, which would be a blanket ban.
So with government regulation, because I always talk about education. Will the government eventually take on a role of Bitcoin education, or will that fall upon the service providers?
I think it will fall upon the service providers. They might have statements or they'll publish some things or another, but I think service providers, one, have more of an incentive to educate and help people understand all of the ways they can unlock with the use of crypto, Bitcoin specifically. Sorry. He's going.
With one look, he's going.
He's going. And that's actually funny. So yeah, it's going to be on companies. They just have their fingers on the pulse a lot more. And they do have one or two missions, which is, to do with their business model, is to educate and bring more people onto Bitcoin. Speaking as Guap, right, is that I will want to send out articles and have people understand how Bitcoin can unlock in their day-to-day. The government has bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I kind of brought this up the last time we spoke, but I will again. The people regulating with this bill, have they actually transacted?
So based on some conversations, some of them have owned
Oh,
Bitcoin.
okay.
And these ones were the ones that listened to us and worked closely with us for those amendments, which was a nice surprise to hear. They said, yes, I do own, I've taken a position, and it may not just be Bitcoin, it might have been something Solana or Ethereum based, which was really cool. And they essentially said, we understand that doing this ban will affect me, so this is why we're opening this door and ready to listen. In the debate, and this is public, so in the debate there was a certain the person on the opposition that said, I've never seen a Bitcoin. Oh, I recorded that because it was missing. I was like, I don't know what it looks like, I don't know. And I was like, oh my goodness. What? It really was my thing. I was like, what? Fine. But then in almost the same, under 2 minutes, he started saying people can steal seed phrases, wallets can be corrupted, and he's reading off of a paper, and I was like, somebody wrote that for you, because you just said 2 minutes ago you've never seen a Bitcoin, so there's no way you know what a seed phrase actually is. So you get both. You get people who have done no interest and are arguing for the sake of arguing, and then you get folks who actually have. It might be a little. I don't ask amounts, right?
Yeah.
Best way to answer how much Bitcoin you have is not enough. So, but they have a little bit, and they were incentivized enough to open the doors and listen to us and push this bill, this corrected bill, into law.
Speaking of seed phrases and scams, on my YouTube channel, I had to reword the description because apparently, so what you say about scams is true. I touch wood. I have navigated away from them, but apparently, with my other episodes, I won't do it with this one, given the context. I put a 12-word seed phrase throughout the videos, Substack, etc. And the first person who finds the words in the right order, they can sweep the wallet and, move 21,000 sats. We're not talking a lot of money, a little bit,
Okay.
to a wallet they control. And I like did some digging, and apparently there are scams on YouTube like this. So I had to be very careful to say this is about learning.
Right.
Whoever gets the sats gets the sats. Anyone can go back and look at the wallet. But I did
Right.
have to be clear. It's about learning about Bitcoin. That's it.
Yeah.
Test your
Yeah.
knowledge and learn how to
Yeah.
use like basics, wallet
Yeah.
basics.
To be honest, I think on our TikTok and our Instagram, I think we're hitting about 30,000 followers there. A lot of my videos have to be like, hey, so this is education. At one point,
Yeah.
we had, I think, a flag on our account where they're like, you're talking about
Yeah.
crypto, you're talking about rates, so we're not going to push it. The algorithm's not going to push it. And I was like, hey, listen, like, you have to do this. This is about education. This is about, so I was like arguing with TikTok, which was kind of cool, but like, we're good now. We're
Yeah.
good now. But yeah, it's anytime we're dealing with finances, I mean, this all rolls back to what are you saying? What are you doing? Are you doing it with the best intentions in mind? And based on some videos, yes, based on some videos, it could be understood as no until you clarify. So
Yeah,
yeah.
most definitely. So, closing out, what can actually, you know what? Let's go to some of the comments
Yes.
from the previous video that we did. So, share screen. I think that you can see. Can you see the screen?
I can. Let me see if I can zoom in.
So, I'm just going to mute the volume. I'll have it playing in the background.
Oh no.
And so, okay, so comments, thanks for covering this. The problem with banks, they are obsolete. Crypto's on a ledger that can be monitored easier by regulators than cash. Regulators need to be educated. TT can't afford to be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
So Guyana, Dominica, it's a law against crypto businesses and exchanges, not personal ownership of crypto.
Yeah, you could still own. So as an individual, with the original bill and this current bill, as an individual, you can still hold Bitcoin, and then
So,
it stops there. So you can't
okay.
really buy, sell, from an operator there. But yeah, you can still own.
What the government needs to do is stop using these online services to apply for passports and government services.
What the government needs to do. Yeah, well, I
She looks
mean,
like Oliver Pope.
I think
Oh,
that's
maybe
you.
Olivia Pope.
That's you. Oh my God, what compliment.
I was using TBE. I don't know what that is. TBE.
Oh, I was using the ATM. I think it's a typo. TTD for Bitcoin was part. Oh,
Ah.
that's one of our users. That's great.
Oh,
I'm so
good.
glad.
So that's
Okay.
Timothy Johnson YouTube.
Timothy Johnson. Oh, I think I know.
Can y'all post an
Yes,
updated video in the future? So
here
we
we
are
are.
filming the update. Yes. Give an update on this, bring her back. I think the bill was amended and passed in Parliament. So you did
Spot
address
on.
that
Spot on. Spot on. Yes, it
in
was.
Parliament and also the Senate, you said.
And the Senate. So the Senate just was this week. Was listening to that debate, I think on Wednesday.
So 2 days ago. So China banned Bitcoin because they channel that traffic to Hong Kong. The beauty of blockchain is immutable record, but China has central bank digital currency. Would that ever come to Trinidad?
Like
A CBDC?
a CD. I was gonna say, I know there's some folks who are championing that. Hard to say. It's very hard to say. That's so new, right? I'm not sure.
It's sad this ban for 2 years is in reality a permanent ban on cryptocurrency, including stablecoins. In 2 years' time, oh dear. Racists in the US will introduce the digital dollar backed by gold. All cryptocurrencies will be banned. The rest of the world, okay, I don't know about that. I don't think so.
Cut, cut. I don't know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. A temporary solution for those Trinis who purchase items for China. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure that.
Okay,
Let's go back to this. I'm gonna
oh,
stop.
Oliver Pope. That's
Oliver
funny.
Pope.
I was using the ATM TTD for Bitcoin. It was hard. That's actually great. I'm glad that some of our customers have found this. So this is the update that everyone's asking for.
Yeah.
It is
But
a
not
win.
to worry in the end. It's
Yeah.
like you guys are managing it quite well.
It is a win, but the work is not done yet. I think that's kind of the last thing I want to say is that it's a win that the government has been open to the sandbox and being ready to accept crypto and Bitcoin in the way that we use it. But it could be superficial, right? After the sandbox is closed, it can be like, well, it's a little too much effort. The risk and reward is not worth it for the government. Or, as people have proven time and time again, their voices can be heard, and that the sandbox can lead to real, permanent, fair regulations that are long lasting. So, I would need the support of all Trinidadians and all Caribbean people to say, hey, like, we use this, we think it's part of a bright future, and we're willing to work with the government to do so.
Most definitely. Just one last question before we
Yeah.
close out. When you started with Guap app, did you think that you would be so involved with regulation in Trinidad?
We could probably do a whole other podcast on that answer. I didn't think I would be this involved. I don't know if you know, I'm a poli-sci major, so that was my education. So I understood navigating it, but I didn't think that myself and my team at Guap would have a huge impact on legislation in a whole country. And I'm incredibly proud of my team. I didn't think it was going to be like this. When I first shipped an ATM down to Trinidad and said, let's see if this work, the response has been fantastic, from customers to legislation, and wrangling it into something that works for us. And hopefully we see across other islands. Like I'm sometimes I have an existential crisis. I'm just like, wow, it's me doing that. Okay, like let's roll with it and see what happens.
It'll work out well. It'll work out well. I'm coming around to understanding the purpose of legislation and stuff. I still personally don't like it, but I'm understanding and I'm gaining more empathy towards it.
It's tricky. It is so tricky. Like it is, on one hand, Bitcoiners and the Genesis block and what's in the Genesis block and the symbol, this like symbolic newspaper in it, and knowing that, but then building on top of that and saying that there are people, and I think talking to customers and being so close to customers really helped me understand this, which is that there are us who are Bitcoin champions and we want more Bitcoiners in the world, and we will educate ourselves and help people adopt it. And then there's people who have other problems they're thinking about and don't know that Bitcoin can be the solution. Put some regulations in place, make sure they're well protected, and let them get on with their lives with this new technology. That's it. That's it. And there's going to be good actors, there's going to be bad actors, and it is up to the Bitcoin champions to help anybody and everybody, legislators, daily consumers, other companies, podcasts, YouTube comments, whatever it be. It's up to us to say, hey, like, there is so much good in this. Like, let's make it happen, and fight the good fight.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Alexandra.
Not a problem. I'm always happy to be here.